States of America,
United States
and
of
to the
America,
republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Chair Nelson is in places far off that I think are warmer than here, and so I'll be chairing the meeting in her absence. I'm looking for a motion to approve today's agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Bruce, I would hope so. Is there a second?
I will second.
Any comments, discussion on the agenda?
Gary, I have an addition to the agenda for tonight that I'm recommending for 12.2, terms of employment for Superintendent Wagner, and this will be an action item.
All right, thank you, Kim. With that said, we have a motion and second with an amendment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
All right, thank you. We are going to take a moment of recess at this point to do a tour of our 18 to 21 programming area. So who's leading us in that charge? Very good. We're a tough crowd to speak in front of, so she did a tremendous job. Excuse me, do we have any open forum items? Where am I looking? We do not? Okay. And next we'll take, I'll entertain a motion to approve, oh, I'm sorry, the biggest part of the day right here. I want to take a moment along with the rest of the board to express our appreciation to Mr. Bruce Olson. So Bruce, thank you for your years of service to the district as well as the school board. We have a little token of our appreciation to share, and you have about 18 minutes for a speech. So please.
It's been a real privilege to serve the students and the staff and community members of Beverly area schools. Hopefully the things we passed, policies and programs in the last
Thank you, Bruce. It's been our privilege to serve with you. Okay, I'll next entertain a motion to approve our consent items.
so moved.
Bruce, absolutely. Bruce, is there a second?
Second. I'll second.
I got Angie in there. Thanks, Kim. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, our next area is reports. Superintendent Wagner.
So good evening, Chair, Madam Chair, welcome, and directors, community, and those online. A couple things. First of all, I too want to thank Director Olson. He's certainly a director who is centered in and leads by character as well as student-centered, which you heard him mention. So thank you for your service. It's greatly appreciated. I know we are a better place because of your governance decision-making, so thank you. Next, I'd like to read from the Minnesota School Board Association. Minnesota School Board Association would like to recognize board member Gary Schindler for successfully completing the MSBA Leadership Development Program. This achievement reflects his participation in leadership workshops phases 1, 2, 3, and 4. MSBA's award recipients will be honored during the recognition luncheon at the December 25 Leadership Conference on Thursday, January 16th. Congratulations.
Well, thanks, Ron. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Next, also from MSBA, the Minnesota School Board Association Awards Program includes a category of recognition for those persons who complete 100 hours or more of attendance in MSBA-sponsored meetings and activities within the 4-year period. I'm pleased to inform you that Director Hoffman, Angie Hoffman, has attended the Director's Award for 24-25, and she's attained this from MSBA and also will be recognized. So congratulations, Director Hoffman.
Angie?
Finally, tonight, for my report, we've been working with our strategic plan and to fully represent and reach out to our community. So you'll get a sneak peek tonight of a project that exemplifies the brilliance of our students, our staff, and our community. This is a video that will be fully ready for publication at the end of this month, and we're very excited. I want to thank all those who were involved, many, in the development of this video. Please enjoy.
Albert Lee Schools is a place where students, families, and teachers work side by side, where everyone feels safe,
valued,
and like they belong. In Albert Lee, our community and our schools come together to create something special, something you don't find anywhere else.
Here, we're all about making sure each student grows, not just academically, but as a whole person.
We know if we believe that all students belong,
Provide a safe and inclusive environment,
create effective communication systems,
Believe families are essential to student success,
value the diversity of our families,
have the resources and time to do our jobs.
and give and receive respect.
Then, as students, we won't just learn here, we'll lead and grow our futures.
we will be your future.
I want to be an engineer,
nurse,
a teacher,
an animal caregiver,
computer scientist,
a lawyer,
an actor,
in the National Football League,
a hairstylist.
Our vision is about inspiring each of us to grow and make a positive impact in our community.
As students, we are encouraged to participate in activities that provide us with experiences that lead us to grow.
Ya sea en clase, en un evento deportivo o nuestra comunidad, todos estamos juntos en esto.
In Albert Lee, we're dedicated to creating daily experiences where we have access to resources, social and emotional needs are supported, and respect is given to all.
Our teachers and staff also get the support they need to succeed to help us reach all of our goals. We are fortunate to be in a community that has always supported us. We can't wait to see what the future brings.
Join our team of students, staff, families, and community members as we come together to build a school district
that creates lifelong learners,
engaged citizens,
and a strong future for all of us.
Again, I believe that exemplifies the brilliance in Albert Lee. There will be 3 other accompanying videos that go along that'll be around retention. It will also be highlighting our early learning and our community education experiences. That's my report for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Wagner. Board member reports, Director Olson.
It was actually a pretty slow month for committee meetings for me. I didn't really have much to report here. I just want to say thanks again, Bruce. We were on a couple of committees together, and you definitely made it fun for me, so thank you.
Director Klott.
First of all, thank you, Bruce. It's been a pleasure to work with you, and I hope you enjoyed seeing the other side of the fence from being a valued employee for many years here. So thank you very much. I'm not going to, basically the delegate assembly, I'm going to kind of defer that over to Gary and Angie there. They're first, well, Angie's second year of doing it, but had a good time. It was interesting to see the process, the speaker the night before, and like I said, I'll let them expand on it, but I think we've got a good platform that, and again, this delegate assembly isn't necessarily all the planks that we do this year. It's stuff basically you kind of fill the quiver up full of the different things when they come up in the future. One of the big things I know they're going to be working on this year is that K-3 situation with discipline. But other than that, it just kind of comes down to saying, you know, the state has voted in favor of doing these particular things. So I'll defer it from there.
Thank you, Dave. Director.
I missed one meeting that I was scheduled to attend, District Curriculum Committee. I had an engagement in the cities on that day. Gary will report on that, I believe. The Education Foundation had a meeting last Wednesday. We're always busy. The next events that are coming up are dealing with a lot of scholarships for which we are custodians. And, excuse me, then the teacher grant program coming up, Hall of Fame, Athletic Hall of Fame banquet will be scheduled again this summer. And then Pathways to Success. We're looking for new board members, and I think we have a line on 4 to replace those members that are going off the board. I am not on the board, I'm just cheap labor. In a position which is sort of like an executive secretary or ex officio. Went to, excuse me, went to the fall musical, which I was very impressed with that production. I was at a wrestling tournament in Cedar Rapids this Saturday in an Alliance Auditorium, huge place, and they had TV screens, and Mean Girls was advertised as being a production that was in the works, and it was very well done. And the play introduced a lot of those factors that are really challenging for girls, but any young person in our schools as they struggle to discover who they are. And I think that the lesson well learned by those taking part in the play was that it's best to be who you are and not try to play somebody else's role. That's a difficult journey to take, and it was very well done. That's it.
And Director Hoffman.
All right. First of all, Bruce, it was a great time getting to know you and working with you, and we will miss you. We hope you will sit out and visit us sometimes. I toured Lakeview with Gary and Superintendent Wagner since our last meeting. Thanks, Gary, for reminding me of that. I think we've hit up all the buildings now, so that's been great to do that. The main thing that I've done since our last meeting, as Dave mentioned, was attend our MSBA Delegate Assembly with Dave and Gary on the 6th and 7th of December. Great experience. I would recommend that to anybody. If nothing else, very educational, because people are presenting resolutions and then there's debate and you're learning about all sides of these issues. Quite a few resolutions were brought up this year about requesting more funding from the state for all the unfunded mandates that have hit schools and causing some financial hardships out there. And as Dave touched on, there was a resolution to ask the state to rescind the K through 3 disciplinary dismissal prohibition. So, and that did pass, which I was supportive of. So we'll see if the MSBA can lobby effectively on that. But that's what I have.
Right, thank you, Director Hoffman. I don't want to repeat much. I did attend the Delegate Assembly with Dave and Angie, and we had a really good speaker. I think he was from St. Thomas, if I'm not mistaken, a political science professor, and very insightful analysis of the election that just took place at the national level and even down to the state level. And I think his prediction or warning was funding could be a challenge in this upcoming legislative session with as tight as some of the assemblies are organized. The category of resolutions really were in the area of school finance, and again, speaking to many of them were about funding unfunded mandates. Also, compensatory funding was a theme also that came up. There was also resolutions related to taxing and flexibility when it comes to levies, such things as leased equipment, folks that are impacted by seasonal tourism, some adjustment in aid. It was a resolution, local optional revenue levy increases as a part of a resolution that was approved. And then also in the area of governance, there were two that caught my attention. One was a resolution to support smaller school boards. Some of our school districts have a challenge to fill their slate of board members when it comes to elections. I think it was 5. There was a resolution to support school boards of 5. And then also a resolution was supported to start a pilot program that looks at lengthening the school year. And there are a number of schools that are on board for that. And that was also given some approval by the Assembly. Some other things that I was engaged in the last month, I did attend the play. I didn't even know what Mean Girls was about. I thought they were talking about my cousins. I had no idea what that, so it was good. I've done some musical theater, and I would say the music was very complex, and our kids pulled that off. I thought the performances were amazing, and for music, that was very complicated. I attended a middle school girls basketball game, some girls hockey. I heard our chorale perform at the All-Service Club luncheon. We had a meeting of the ad hoc committee that's looking at a framework for superintendent evaluation. You should be seeing a draft of that soon. The Education Foundation met, and I'll be chairing that starting in February of next year. I do have a recollection of attending the curriculum committee. Don't push me on details. But I was present. Okay, good. And also attended a finance committee. So I believe that is the end. Oh, I have Director Nelson, a report.
It's easy to forget I've done it, the virtual attendee, but Bruce, thank you so much for everything. You have been an amazing board member to work with, and I will miss you. I'm sorry that I missed your celebration today, but please know I'm celebrating with you. You did amazing. I attended the Education Foundation meeting, and after 6 years, my term is up on that board, and so I am gladly handing over that gavel over to Gary, and he will do a great job. And like Neil indicated, Jess and Caitlin and the other folks at the high school are working on making sure that we have a really great celebration of our students through scholarship. And that's all I have tonight.
All right, thank you, Director Nelson. Carly.
Hello. All right, so I have a few things. Issue 4 of the Alhassa comes out this week, so make sure to grab an issue. Talks about our features this month are Haley Deming, the swimmer that went to state, and Stephanie Schneider, who is a special education teacher at the high school. It was really interesting to get to know a lot more about their stories, so I really recommend you read some of the articles in there, as well as there were a bunch of music concerts. Well, there is one today, and then there was one a week or so ago, the choir concert. From what I heard, they did really well. And then NHS is doing a bunch of things like the blood drive. I heard all of the slots for that is filled. And then candy cane grams, which you can send a candy cane with a little note, and that is really fun, and that's all I have.
Carly, thank you very much. And then our teacher report, Amber Yost, please.
Well, for the teacher report here, we have, City was able to host our first Donuts and Grown-Ups event since probably before COVID, and we went through 400 and some donuts. It was very well received, and we know we need to
Amber, thank you very much. I'll move us on now to effective and efficient operations and daily desired experience survey.
All right, good evening, school board, Madam Chair, Director Schindler. This evening, I am presenting the Daily Desired Experiences survey data. Daily Desired Experiences were part of the work that we started when we started the strategic planning work. We did the initial survey in the spring of 22 and identified those daily desired experiences for students, families, and staff. The intent for the daily desired experiences is that we do annual surveys of those 3 stakeholder groups to gather survey data so that we can stay within database decision-making based on the data we receive. So this evening, I'll be presenting the results of the Daily Desired Experiences survey that was collected in November. I provided for you this evening a packet so that you have a close copy as well while we're going through the data this evening. Again, grounding us in those strategic directions, all of these will be touched on this evening, and you'll see that as we circle back at the end of tonight's presentation, why each of those strategic directions are relevant in the data that was collected. Starting out, if you're following along in your packet, the Daily Desired Experiences survey data. First of all, I also want to highlight in the December 6th weekly Need to Know, your board update, Superintendent Wagner did foreshadow in the weekly Need to Know that we would be presenting Daily Desired Experiences this evening. One of the things he highlighted there was statistically reliable data. Looking for 60% or more responding favorably, no more than 30% in the neutral category, and the goal being less than 10% in the responding negative category. So that was foreshadowed for this evening, so keeping that in mind as we're looking through that data tonight. First one we're looking at is student data on page 5. This survey was completed for students 6 through 12, including our Area Learning Center and Online Academy students. So you can see on the first pie graph the percentage of students that participated in each building that was surveyed. On my screen, I will have the bottom of page 5, so I will have the overall data. But as you flip through each of your subsequent pages, you will have the individual pie graphs if you're interested in looking at the individual ones. Just brings it forward a little bit more prominent for you. First, in the student responses, I am safe. Looking at 69% of our students responding favorably, while 8.4% fell in the negative response category. You'll also notice I color-coded our categories for favorable or neutral responses versus a disagree response. Teachers supporting and valuing our students responded favorably 67.5%. Students having access to resources and feeling their needs are met, again responding favorably at 67%. Students feeling recognized and appreciated. This one fell slightly below the 60% at 57.6, and the 9.4% is creeping closer to that 10% area. Engaging activities that help me learn in class, 60% favorable, while 10.6 responded disagree. So definitely an area to look at across each of our sites. During the school day, given time to understand and ask questions, again, more than 60% responded favorably. School offering a variety of activities. This one was our strongest response, with 70.5% of our students agreeing that they had opportunities for a variety of activities and classes that helped them learn and grow. And then potential recognized and being challenged in our learning, students responded 59.9%, so very close to that 60% category. In looking at our student responses, all but one fall in the less than 10% responding in the disagree or strongly disagree category. I didn't put my little question mark on here, didn't I? Go for it. Questions on student data.
So basically, 50% of the categories are 60% or less.
50% of the categories are at 60% or less. Yeah, if we're looking at the strongly disagree column and not including the, yep. Other questions or comments?
The neutral response, how might you interpret that? I'm assuming that students may think it doesn't apply to them, or there's uncertainty, they may feel uncertain.
I suppose it could be interpreted as either of those. It's not in the disagree column, so we want that neutral, that center column, to tip to the agree. So as this is district-wide data, buildings, once we received the district-wide data, we did collect data, as you saw on the previous screen, Southwest High School, ALC, and Online Academy. Once all of that data was collected district-wide, then we sorted that data by building and shared that out with principals. We actually did have a principal ask this morning at Principal Leadership Network to have that on our next agenda to talk about district-wide unpacking that data. And then how can we lead that conversation back in our buildings with our school leadership teams? So to your point of the percentage of students that are in the neutral category, as a building leader, this is a great opportunity to look at what are our experiences here in that middle column, and working with your school leadership teams on how do we tip that to the agree or strongly agree. I think leaning into the superintendent cabinet group and asking some of those daily desired experiences questions to that group of students as well, of what are we seeing within our classrooms and within our school sites. I know our principals are engaging in regular conversations with students as well. So with the data, we do the up and out here to you, gather the data up and out to you, but then also gather the data for down and into the buildings. So principals will really be able to guide those conversations with their school leadership teams and students.
How many students, or what percentage of our student population actually took this survey?
So we had 886 responses of our 6 through 12 students.
Okay.
Is the number of students that responded.
And that's a significant number. Yeah.
We also, to that question as well, I had worked with the Executive Director Halverson to ensure we didn't get the number of responses at the ALC and Online Academy that we desired. So we actually opened up the survey again to push out a higher percent response to ensure their voices were heard as well.
Thank you, Executive Director Frankson. Just to add, this is an opportunity to go dive deeper, even though this is a quantitative measure, what's the qualitative? So it's really engaging in those conversations from the student voice, and it's specifically in that neutral, what haven't we done yet to meet the needs, and then how do we continue to do and build on the successes that we're seeing in the agree to strongly agree. So that's that qualitative piece, and that's an engagement where you dive deeper, chunk it out, look at a few questions, and let's talk through that. And that's where those valuable pieces of input will be important to move forward.
How, as you drill down, and there are individual school reports of the same survey, who would facilitate a drill down with students?
Great question. So with our principals, they would start with the facilitation of that drill down. We would also lean into our coaches in each of our buildings, whether that is instructional coaches, if it's something pertaining to the student instructional experience in a classroom. We can also lead into our MTSS literacy coaches. MTSS as it relates to our social emotional learning, if we're offering that opportunity for our students and what that looks like in our classrooms. So I would really say, you know, your primary leader of those conversations at the site level will be your building administrator, your principal, but then leading into your school level leadership teams to include those coaches. As I'm talking through this, I also think a great resource in our buildings is our deans and our school social workers, particularly when we think through some of the SEL components. And I, of course, will support them in any of those pieces, questions that they have as well. Moving on to the second area of the Daily Desired Experiences survey is our families. So on page 10 starts the big picture of the families that were surveyed. The first pie graph just lays out each of the schools that responded. And then this is on the bottom of page 10. So what you see on the screen matches the bottom on page 10. When I think about Director Klotz's question, so I see that 50% were 60% or below. What do you notice on this slide in our family responses? Much more favorable, absolutely. So much more favorable data in our family responses. On this, 100% of them are 60% or higher. So that definitely has a much more favorable. And then in the strongly disagree, you notice that in the strongly disagree, 100% of them are less than 10%. So our families were responding favorably in their daily desired experiences that were outlined as part of the strategic plan. So feeling that their children are physically and emotionally safe in our spaces, that our schools are welcoming, that our schools have the resources they need to meet their child's needs, that their children are respected and celebrated, that they're appropriately challenged. So the feedback on the family side was very positive overall. Again, this was vetted out to provide each building their individual data. District-wide data responds very favorably in each of our individual school sites. Then principals will be able to think through their family and community engagement plans, which are part of Title, to determine what they need to do to respond to their individual data at the site level. Questions on the family responses?
How many total surveys did you send out? Do you remember?
So the survey went out to all families and we received 388 responses. But it did go out to all families. So what's our current population? Right around 3,000,
Yeah.
a little under 3,500.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The reason I had just commented, it's only about 25% of the respondents were either at the high school level or the Southwest tied together. So I was just curious if, since we couldn't use in the student survey the younger students as well for there, I just wondered if there was any effort to make sure we had more of the elementaries to give a district-wide look at our situation.
So our efforts were extensive. So it went out in sorry, I just lost my words. The newsletter, the SMORE newsletter that goes out monthly. So it was included in the SMORE newsletter. Elementary principals included it in their monthly newsletters as well. And then at elementary conferences, we had opportunities available with either iPads or Chromebooks for families to access as they came to conferences. So we did push it out in a variety of ways. That's definitely something we're thinking about, though, for the future, is how do we be even more purposeful than we already are to solicit more responses? Because we do want more than 3, I mean, that's not a very high percentage of our student population. Granted, there are some multiple student households, but we still want to see more than that.
That was what my question, how did the multiple student households factor in? Did they factor in once or twice if I have 2 students? I got an elementary and a high school student, did they factor in twice? If I got an elementary Southwest and a high school, did they factor in 3 times?
We did ask that the family take it multiple times.
Okay.
So that, for that reason, so I have a student that attends at an elementary school and a middle school, we want that data to push out to both places because maybe a family feels one way or another about each site. And so we wanted to collect that in both ways. But definitely thinking through how do we be even more purposeful in the future? Other questions or comments on families?
I'm happy to see that students feel, or the families feel that their child is safe, that they feel welcome, and that the classroom is organized for learning. Those are pretty meaningful findings for me, to be in the top 3.
Yeah. I think as we reflect on that, and principals lead those conversations in their buildings as well, I think part of what we're going to see, there's been a number of efforts, as you know, with Executive Director Durbin on the safety side of things that has really amped up safety in our buildings. I think across the board, the efforts of Teach to Heal and how we're being trauma responsive in our classrooms, as well as non-exclusionary discipline. There are a number of things that we have implemented in our buildings that our principals and our leaders are really doing with integrity. And I think that shows in our family data.
One question, when it comes to setting the goals of, wanting to be at least 60% and all that, how were those goals set? Was that in the district or a recommendation from outside?
No, so I can let probably Superintendent Wagner speak to that a little bit more reliably than I can, but it has to do with statistically reliable data.
Yeah, and I think as you look at data and as you look at engagement specifically in multiple ways, when you have that 60-30-10, to get to that 100, you have that recognize you get that 60%, that's the critical mass. That 30%, which is one way or the other, you continue to support the 60, then that 30%, that goes back to that qualitative piece. How do you continue to reach and what aren't we doing yet to engage those individuals? And then that 10%, you know they exist, and you continue to have them leaning in, but what is the continued outreach? So you want the whole, which is the 100%, but the statistically reliable is the 60-30-10. It'd be great to tip even further as we continue to get metrics. So when you get a baseline, then you set goals, Director Huffman, of what is it that we want to do with the students. So if our goal was 62%, we could set a goal of potentially 65 or 66. What is that SMART goal that's obtainable? So that will be some of the next steps.
When Superintendent Wagner mentions next steps, so as part of the Principal Leadership Network, we're unpacking really that continuous improvement process this year. And as we unpack that continuous improvement process, this data will be part of that, with the end goal, as he said, of writing goals that we can identify what our student needs are, our family needs, and our staff needs, and then identify action steps around each of those. Okay, finally, looking at daily desired experiences on the staff survey. The staff survey starts on page 15 of your packet. Respondents in each of our buildings, I do want to highlight on this one, We did survey all staff, not just licensed staff. So this was sent out to licensed staff, support staff, administrators, custodial, anybody that works for District 241. When you're looking at this, this wasn't solely teaching staff that responded on this survey. I'm working on it. There it goes. Okay. Staff responses. I'll give you a second. I'm not going to read through every single one of those, but I'll give you a minute or two here to glance through our staff responses. Specifically, again, looking at those 60, 30, 10 that we discussed. On this one, I've got Director Klotz's comment in my mind from the very first one. So on this one, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the 9 that are above 60%.
60.3, so I mean, if you're gonna do some, I'm gonna say
Yeah.
4 out of 9, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, yep.
I think this is an opportunity where you get very, very strategic on writing some goals to improve the daily desired experience of our staff. So this will be one where the principals will lead those conversations with their building leadership teams, as well as all staff.
Yeah. Questions? Wonders?
Go ahead.
Staff in the district office, what category would they fall under?
Staff in the district office, what category? District-wide? You mean like me? Like what category would I have responded under? I would have responded under district-wide. Yep. Yep, but a custodian at Hawthorne would have responded Hawthorne. That is one of my curiosities. If we take it apart by either bargaining units or different groups of individuals, I think that would also help us peel back even further where more or less support, I shouldn't say less support, I retract that, where more support is needed or areas where things are going well. That would be a curiosity of mine, since this was all staff.
A survey to me helps identify things we can celebrate and areas that we can improve. And I also look for surveys to affirm. And I can speak for Angie, but in our school tours, we repeatedly heard about the collaborative environment at the site. And I see that, that's reflected in the survey, that the staff feel that they're working in a collaborative environment. But I also see a disconnect. I mean, the students and the families feel that the child is being supported emotionally and socially, but we don't necessarily see that from the staff side. So again, it's another opportunity to drill down and help understand why there might be a dissonance there.
Yep. I agree. Other questions? Okay, so as we think about what does this mean, again, this is our up and out. The down and in is to our buildings. So as we think about that, keeping in mind what our tie to the MTSS framework is, it's important that this data helps guide our decisions around continuous improvement and what infrastructures are we building towards continuous improvement. Also, our MTSS admin teacher leadership team last spring, we identified multi-layered practices and supports as our priority area this year in our MTSS work. And I would definitely say, as we looked through the data this evening, that there are definitely areas that we've identified in that multi-layered practices and supports for students and particularly staff. So the last place I'm going to draw you to as we round out this evening is page 22 in your packet. what I really wanted to do tonight is really bring this back and tie it all back to where does this fall within our strategic directions. And what I pulled out was pulling out what the highest identified need was, or if they fell in that 10% or more unfavorable response. So as we think about amplifying student learning in the staff category, we can definitely identify that the one that Director Schindler just pointed out, our students' social and emotional needs are supported. That needs to be a priority area as we look at our data at 21.7% responding unfavorably. When we look at the strategic direction of fostering a learning environment, highlighting two students, just a little bit over that 10%, but ensuring that our students are doing engaging activities and interesting topics. So how do we engage our students to ensure that they have access to those activities and experiences both within and outside of our school day? And then staff, this one is repeated in the strategic direction of social emotional needs supported, as this one identifies their well-being as well. Supporting staff, time and resources comes up at 31.9%. That's definitely a theme we've heard as we talk about staff development days, academy days. So staff are needing to feel supported in both their personal and professional growth and having the resources and time necessary to do their jobs. And the approving efficiency, highlighting communication at the district level and the site level. That was 27.7% in the staff category. So definitely an area of focus, both at the district level and the site level, is communication. And safe and orderly came out favorable in the family survey, but staff at 11.4%. So what more can we do? I think the tie-in I see between safe and orderly also ties back to, are our students' social and emotional needs met? And so those two pieces from staff really tie together. And then finally, in the building purposeful partnerships of our strategic direction, again, back to, while it's below 10%, it's still important that our families receive timely and relevant communication. So what you see on page 22 of your packet is those categories, with the exception of families, that were outside of that 10% threshold that we would desire to see. All right. Thank you for your time this evening. Yes.
What's a double asterisk at the
It
end?
was that's because that's the only one below 10%. So I just wanted to make a note of that. Thank you.
What do you anticipate would be a time frame for drilling down and gathering more information and perhaps a follow-up to the board?
So we will put this on our principal leadership agenda for January, which is the third Monday of the month. I think we can work at a cabinet level to identify a follow-up. But if principals really start digging into that in quarter three already, if they really start digging into that in quarter three, we could look to do an update as we work towards the continuous improvement plans in the spring. So we could do a spring update. Okay. Yeah. Anything else?
All right.
Okay,
Thank you,
you.
Executive Director Franks. So that is item 12.1. We have an additional item on the agenda for action, and that is terms of employment for the superintendent. I'll turn that over to Director Nelson.
Yes, thank you, Acting Chair Schindler. I would like to move that we allow Superintendent Wagner's contract to expire and place him on administrative leave from December 17th to June 30th.
I'll second it, Gary.
Motion by Director Nelson and a second by Director Klott. Is there any discussion? And Director Nelson, I'll have you go ahead as part of our discussion for that item.
Sure, thank you. In conversations with legal counsel and Superintendent Wagner, this motion supports the district and Superintendent Wagner's ability to move forward. I am appreciative of the commitment Mr. Wagner has provided our district since his appointment in July of 2022, and wish him well in future endeavors. Superintendent Wagner will make himself available during the transition as needed.
Is there any other discussion? Yes, Director Score.
I would be interested in hearing what Superintendent Wagner has to comment relative to this, if he feels that he would like to do so.
Thank you, Director Score. I just want to say that I sit here in appreciation of the brilliance that we exhibited tonight in the video, from the board members to the community, to the staff and the students. They're amazing. I think the statement, that's more all I can say from the statement, but know that 2.5 years ago, my wife and I moved down to Albert Lea, centered ourselves in the community, followed through on the 100-day plan, and I enjoyed every bit. I want to thank my wife for standing by me through these times. It's, we've gone through a lot, from budget adjustments to reconfiguration. There's been a lot. But on the other side of this is the amazing students that we have each and every day that walk through our doors. And to them, they are my why. And I'm greatly appreciated, from Carly tonight to all the 3,500 students, and what they've given me and inspired me and filled my heart with each and every day.
Any other further discussion? Hearing none, we will commence with voting, and as chair, I'd like to do that vote via roll call. Director Olson.
Aye.
Director Valerio.
Aye.
Director Klott.
Aye.
Director Score.
Aye.
Director Hoffman.
Aye.
Director Nelson.
Aye.
And I vote aye. I'll entertain a motion for our adjournment.
So moved.
Good. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Merry Christmas. Bruce, again, thank you very much, sir.
Sir.